Hello, I'm Portia Parker Griffin, and I want to welcome you to the Career 101 podcast, a place for ambitious professionals and seasoned executives who want an edge in their career. We're talking about all of the things you were never taught or told when it comes to career growth, development, and change. Now, let's get into it. Today, we are talking about Productivity 101, Productivity at Work with Wendy Ellin. Wendy Ellin is a workplace productivity consultant, international speaker, and #1 best-selling author of Work from Home. How's that working for you? Her insights on living an organized life are shared in her presentations with irreverence, humor, and a level of passion that motivates her audience to take immediate action. Wendy talks about real-life challenges that we all experience, such as email overload, being on time or not, reasonable expectations for getting things done, and much more. It is from Wendy's 20-plus years in the corporate arena that she drew from her own successes by working smart, not hard, that inspired her to develop the tools and techniques for increasing workplace productivity and ultimately a renewed sense of peace of mind. Hi, Wendy. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
We are excited to have you with us to discuss Productivity 101, Productivity at Work. But first, we want to know a little more about you. So tell me about 7-year-old Wendy.
7-year-old Wendy, when I was 7 years old, I'm one of 5 kids. While I was 7, there was someone else in my family that was 3, 4, 8, and 9. No, actually, I get that wrong. When I was 7, we were 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We were all a year apart in age, 5 kids. And at the time, my mother was 29 years old. You can imagine what that was like having 5 kids at that age all at once. And so I grew up with rules. And one of those rules was we had to be organized. So that's where this whole crazy thing started. I was raised this way.
I love it, Wendy. It sounds like your mom was Superwoman to me.
It was the only way for her to handle 5 kids. Like she just had to do that. And so we all learned early on, this was the way the ship was going to be run.
So what did you want to be when you grew up, Wendy?
I was the only one out of 5 kids that had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. Every single one of my siblings had something they really wanted to be. My brother always wanted to be an architect, and my sister wanted to be a school teacher, and my other brother wanted to be a doctor. And every one of my siblings who said they wanted to be something, for the most part, except maybe one of them, wound up doing exactly that. I did not know what I wanted to do. But I figured out that the thing that I was really good at was writing. And so I went to college and I was a writing arts major, not really knowing how that would apply to my everyday life. Now, fast forward to many years later, I've written 2 books and co-authored 2 books, and the writing came in pretty handy. But at the time, I wanted to work in an advertising agency. That was the coolest thing in my eyes. My dad had owned an advertising agency many years ago in New York City, and he was on the art side of it. And I always thought, what a cool job that would be to work for an advertising agency. So that's what I did. I graduated college, and I moved to Atlanta, and I started working for McCann Erickson, which was the advertising agency for Coca-Cola at the time, and started doing what I went to college for, shockingly enough, until I hated it and then realized I didn't want to be a copywriter. So I stayed in the advertising business, but I went on to the sales side of it. And I wound up selling for a newspaper and a magazine and radio for many years. I stayed at radio once I found selling radio and how lucrative it could be. I wound up doing that for many years until I left to do what I do now. So I've had a real interesting career.
Very, Wendy. And one thing I would say that seems pretty rare for you, just based on most of the clients that we've had and even the guests on the podcast, right out of college, it sounds like you got that dream job or what you thought was your dream job at that time. I'm sure that was really exciting for you at that time, so early in your career.
Oh, yeah, it was great. I started out at the bottom. Interestingly enough, I started out as the traffic manager. So the traffic manager is the one that makes sure that the copywriter has what they have and the creative people have what they have, and everything is done on time when it needs to be. So early on, I actually got a job that required someone to be uber organized, right? And that's a skill set that I have, that it's a natural talent. I didn't have to work hard at it. I never had to learn it. It just came intuitively natural for me to set myself up for success right out of the gate.
So, Wendy, tell us about some highlights or pivotal moments in your career before you started your business.
I'm a people person. And so when I was on the advertising agency side and someone came to me and said, you should be in sales, the first thing I said was, "Oh, no, I don't want to be in sales. It's scary. I don't want to be in sales. And I particularly don't want to be in sales where I'm 100% commission." And then I gave it some thought and I realized, you know what? If you look at sales differently and you look at it as only just having conversations with somebody, and if you have conversations with the people who need the thing that you're selling, it's not that scary. So I dived. I literally leapt. Someone told me about a job opportunity that was available, and I was leaving the agency, the account side of the advertising agency, and I applied for a job and I got it. And I loved it. I was so excited about sales. It never scared me whatsoever. I liked not sitting in an office all day. I liked having appointments out in the world, meeting people and finding out what their problem was and creating a solution to it. And from that minute on, I knew I was going to be in sales the rest of my life.
Wow. Wow. It's great how you just embrace sales, Wendy, because I would say the majority of the people, the clients that I've had and the people that I know have struggled with sales. And I know for me, I'm an introvert. Jumping into sales, it was definitely difficult for me. So, since it sounds like that was just natural for you, what would you say were some of your biggest career challenges before starting your business?
I'm like trying to think of what they could possibly be. Corporate America is a structured environment. I don't do so well in a structured environment. I once said to my boss, I know you want to see me every day in the office. And I know that you think that if I'm not in the office, I'm not doing my job. So let's make a deal. You give me a budget and I'll meet it. And it doesn't matter how I meet it, as long as it's ethical and it's reasonable and it's legal, I'm going to make my budget. And I was the one that made my budget every month and won the sales, whatever the sales contest was, month after month, because I worked smart, not hard. And I knew that if I was going to be 50 minutes away from the office and it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, for me to just drive back and sit in rush hour traffic just so my boss could see my face, it didn't make sense to me. And so I always challenged the way corporate America's structure was and the old thinking of sales. You got to be in the office. So if you're not there, then I don't think you're doing your job. Because the reality of it was, on any given month, I could do my job in 3 weeks out of the month and have the other week off free. Or I could do whatever I wanted, right? I knew how to work smart. It's always something that's been instilled and innate in me. I never worked hard. I don't mind working, particularly now with what I do. It doesn't feel like work because I love what I do. And that's the greatest joy in doing what you do, is not feeling like it's work. But even back in the day when I was working for people and I had to answer to somebody else, I always was the one that would speak up and say, I promise you I'm going to do my job, but let me do my job the way it works best for me. And you will be disappointed. I think part of it is asking for what you want and what you need to be successful. And I've never been afraid to do that in any place, anytime, anywhere. I'm always the one that asks the questions everybody else is thinking to ask, but is afraid to.
Wow.
It's just my personality. I am literally that bold person. I am a risk taker. I will actually ask the question everybody else is thinking, or say what everybody else is thinking, but they're afraid to.
Do you think that's a little bit of the New York in there too?
Probably. I'm sure it is. And also being raised being the middle of 5 kids, if you want something, you better scream loud enough. So that's just the way I was raised. But it's a lot of it's the New Yorker in me, and a lot of it is just my personality. I'm a fiery Sagittarian, and I speak up. And I have always believed that number one, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And number two, it never hurts to ask.
Yeah. Wendy, what made you decide to start a business and then also to focus it on productivity?
So I never, ever wanted to be a business owner. It never crossed my mind. I was really happy doing what I was doing and working for other people, but I got burned out like everybody does in a business. I got burned out. It was the late 1990s. It was started to be a really toxic environment. And I knew it wasn't healthy. And my husband and my kids also knew it wasn't healthy because they were seeing me come home every night. I was just wiped out. So I went to see Oprah. She did her Live Your Best Life tour in Atlanta back in 1999. And I went with a girlfriend who I worked with at the radio station. And I literally walked out of there and I said to Donna, I'm leaving this job by my birthday, which is the end of November. And this was June. And I said, I can't tell you what I'm going to do or what's going to happen. I'm just telling you now, I'm putting it out to the universe. I'm leaving my job by the end of the year. And she said, you go, girl. If anyone's going to do this, it's you. And it turned out that a friend of mine called me around October and said, Wendy, there are two people that are selling a business I think you should buy. And I said, I'm not buying a business. I don't want to own a business. She said, just go talk to them. So I did. And it turned out these are two women who were in their late 20s, both of them getting ready to have their first child and wanted to let go of this business. And after a bunch of series of events that happened, one of the women delivered her baby 10 days early and left the other woman with the business by herself. And she didn't want it. She basically sold it to me for nothing. And it's called the 25th Hour, which is the name of my business today. And I bought this business. And I remember waking up the next morning and saying to my husband, all right, now what do? I own a business. I had no idea what to do. But I had clients because all those clients that those two women were servicing were now mine. And I started servicing them. And the 25th Hour was a personal concierge service. If you need an extra hour in your day, you hire me and I run your life. And I did that for many years and I hated it because all I was doing was enabling these very wealthy, crazy, busy people to live the way they were living because I had the keys to their house. I did everything for them: grocery shopping, gift shopping, clothing shopping for them, taking them to the airport, picking them up. I had a client that used to call me and tell me that I'm at the airport and I left my briefcase at home. Can you go get my briefcase and bring it to me? Like crazy stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I can bring it to you, but you might miss your flight. So I realized after really giving this a long, hard thought, I'm doing something wrong here. I have a gift. If I can teach you how to live differently, you don't need to hire me to run your life. You can run your own life. And that's when I flipped the model of my business. And it's been taking off ever since. I'm now 22 years into my business. I'm doing what I'm doing.
Congratulations. Congratulations. So, Wendy, many of our clients who are executives or professionals say that they want to be more productive at work. From your perspective, what are the benefits of being productive at work?
I think I always talk about how everything that I do relates to the 3 Ps, which are productivity, performance, and peace of mind. And I believe that they all go hand in hand. So if you're really serious about your career and you're on a trajectory, no matter where you are in that process, and you have an end goal, learning basic organizational skills is really going to enhance your performance, which is also going to give you the peace of mind that you're looking for in your job. And it's all about joy. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much stuff we have. It doesn't matter how much money we make. It's all about the amount of joy that you feel in life. And when you're tied into chaos and overwhelm about the moving parts about how you do your work, there's not that much peace of mind about your job, right? And it's all energy. What kind of energy do you have around the way you work is what I ask my clients. How do you feel? How does the way you work make you feel? That's a direct indication to your energy. If you're feeling exhausted and you're feeling overwhelmed and you have worry about what could have fallen through the cracks and you're embarrassed about always being late, not saying what you say you're going to do and not delivering to a client you say you're going to, there's an energy that's attached to that. And so I like to set myself up to always have the most high frequency, high positive energy I can. And the way I do that is that I have systems. It's that simple. I have systems. It's like when I ask everybody in a crowd when I'm standing on a stage, how many of you put your keys in exactly the same place every day? Everybody raises their hand. That's a system. And when I ask them why, it's because they don't have to spend time looking for them. So you'll set up an easy system for your keys, but you won't necessarily set up an easy system for how you navigate your paper in your office. It's the same thing. Why do you want to flip through a million piles looking for that piece of paper you just had your hands on 15 minutes ago when you could have a system where you put it somewhere and you know it's going to be there when you're looking for it next, right? So it's really a mindset, and it's about paying attention to the way you operate instead of just winging it and being on autopilot. Because most people who are on autopilot have been on it for a very long time. And as I always say, your driver might not be going in the direction you want them to.
The Career 101 podcast is brought to you by Fly High Coaching, where we help our clients soar to their full potential. More and more professionals and executives are setting out to achieve their career goals. But without the right support, it can be difficult, if not impossible. Whether you need career coaching, interview coaching, or a professional resume, we're here to help. Check us out on our website, fly-highcoaching.com. I love the 3 Ps, Wendy: productivity, performance, and peace of mind. Those are so important, as well as having systems. And I want to just piggyback a little bit on what you were saying. When I've talked to clients, I hear a lot about stress, anxiety, and burnout. How have you seen productivity affect those feelings?
Oh, 100%. The burnout is, I have so much on my plate. I don't know what to do first. I have no system for prioritizing. I have no system for triaging what I have coming at me all day. I don't have any bounds. I'm not able to set boundaries around my time. I'm not able to deal with interruptions effectively. So it's a mixture of all these things. I'm multitasking versus sticking to one thing at a time. It's all these different issues that relate to why people are disorganized: perfectionism, procrastination, multitasking, focusing, timeliness. There are so many different issues that relate to why people are disorganized, and they all tie into getting things done in a way that serves you well, right? We all get things done during the day. There are days when I do absolutely nothing, but I plan to do absolutely nothing. But on any given day, I am productive. But the level of my productivity can change based on my energy, my thinking, and then my actions.
Wow. Wow. That was very powerful, Wendy. So, how do you think productivity is affected by working from home?
Here's the thing. COVID did not make people disorganized. I need everybody to really hear that. COVID did not make anybody more disorganized than they already were. COVID just shed a light on an issue that just bubbled to the surface. I remember in March of 2020 when everybody went home, and I said to my husband, "Oh my God, I feel so sorry for the world." And he said, "What?" And I said, "No, really, I feel so sorry for the world. Think of all those people who are disorganized, who have a lot of clutter in their life. They have the luxury of getting out of that space and going to an office every day. Now they don't have that luxury. Now they have to figure out how to do their work amongst all their crap, right?" The world was panicked. Oh my God, what do I do? It's why I wrote my book. I left town and holed up in an Airbnb for a week and wrote the book, Working from Home, How's That Working for You? And then got it to #1 bestseller because I had a big message to share. And that is, it doesn't matter who you work for. It doesn't matter where you work. And it doesn't matter what you do. It's all about the how. It's all about the how. If you have basic systems, they're going to go with you, whether you work at home, whether you go to the office. You got to get that, though. You got to get that it's about the how. It's about you focusing on, how do I set myself up for success with my paper, with my email, with my scheduling, and making sure that no matter where I am, I'm honoring those systems. Look, systems don't work unless you work them, right? It's like Weight Watchers. You go on Weight Watchers, you lose the weight if you follow the plan. You don't follow the plan, you don't lose the weight.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to make this topic harder than it has to be.
Wow. So I can tell a few things just based on what you said. One, you have amazing systems if you wrote a book in a week. Number one. And then it sounds like you are able to qu- probably naturally just go in and create those systems in chaos or what some people would deem to be chaotic environments. So, from your perspective, Wendy, what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen people have with being productive?
Number one, physical clutter. That's number one, because that's obvious. That's right in your face, right? That's in your space, physical clutter. When you start to get rid of, so the word clutter actually comes from the word clotter, to clot. So think about if you have a blood clot in your body, you feel different, your body responds different, it's not working 100%. There's a problem. It's exactly the same thing with physical clutter. You feel different, you're not working 100%, there's a problem, and you feel it. It's exactly the same thing, right? So the first thing I do is go, okay, we got a physical clutter problem. That's the first thing we're going to tackle because that's instant gratification. If we can get rid of the mess and we can create the space that you can then start to work on some of the other issues, that's huge. So physical spaces are always really important. And a lot of times I literally get people to stop being as paper heavy and convert to more technology heavy. I've done it myself over the years. I never thought I would have as little paper in my life as I do now. And I made the choice. Look, I straddle both worlds. And here's what I say about that. If you're going to straddle the paper/technology world, you need to have a system for both. I have a system for both. So that's number one. And it's really a lot also about what are your habits? Look at your habits. What's your morning routine? How do you set out on your day every day? Do you set out where you just wing it? You're out of the bed and you shut the alarm off and you got the coffee maker going while you're taking a shower and you are running to the office to get in time for a meeting? Or do you build a little time in the morning to maybe meditate for 10 minutes, do some stretches, have a cup of coffee in silence? I have a gratitude journal I write in every morning. I have a book that I read a page of every morning. I really get centered and create the energy that I want for my day.
Yeah, I think physical clutter, like you mentioned, is something that stops a lot of people in their physical space or environment. And then having the habits can be so powerful. It sounds like, Wendy, maybe a theme might be just being more intentional about not only your space, but what you're doing. And that might help to be productive. Is that kind of, do you agree with that or what are your thoughts?
When you're not living consciously, you're living accidentally, not intentionally.
Ooh, that was a writer
When
down,
you
guys.
when you're not consciously living your life, you are living accidentally, not intentionally. How do you want to live? I don't want to live accidentally. I want to envision what I want it to look like because if you sit down every morning and you envision what your day is going to look like, you have a much greater chance of that happening. I literally sit in a chair in the morning and I look at my day and I look at it as if it's 6 o'clock and I'm looking backwards. What happened? I got up. I was at this meeting. I was there on time. I built boundaries around my time. I didn't take any interruptions, like my husband, who might come stand at my office door and want to chat. And he knows if I don't look up, don't take it personally. Right. And then I take a break and I see him if he needs help. And I take a 30-minute well-being half hour and walk my dog. And then I come back and I do the same thing. But I literally know exactly what my day is going to look like before it happens.
Wow.
Now, I don't know what's going to come into my day that's not necessarily planned, but I planned for unexpected interruptions. I'm available to them and there's no chaos around it.
Yeah, I think that's so important, Wendy, because I've been told I'm pretty productive and organized as well. But what I found that I wasn't doing, to your point, is I wasn't necessarily planning for that, the unexpected, right? And so I've had to be more intentional about leaving white space in my calendar for those kind of things that pop up.
Absolutely. And here's the thing also, I truly believe in productivity, performance, and peace of mind and how they all go together. But at the end of the day, don't you want to have fun at what you do? Don't you want to have fun? There's no fun in chaos and overwhelm. There's no fun in stressed out. There's no fun in having to have fun in that. And then it's also about, what are your core values? I always talk a lot about that with my clients. What are your core values? One of my biggest core values is reliability. I'm that person. I do what you ask me to do. And if I can't do it, I'll let you know. But I'm such an honor your word person. But in order to honor my word, I have to plan accordingly. If I tell you I'm going to get you something on Friday, I got to make sure I have the time to do what I said I'm going to do and get you that on Friday. So it's like, are you living in what are your core values? And two, are you living in alignment with who you say you are?
Yeah, those are all really important. And I love how you mentioned core values. One of the activities we have for a lot of our coaching clients is to take a values assessment so they can get clear on what their own personal core values are. So I love how you wove that in with productivity and how it shows up in different areas of your life. So, Wendy, you've talked a bit about systems. We've heard that quite a bit. But what are some other tips or suggestions you'd give to someone who wanted to be more productive at work?
The first thing I would say is, look at where you're using your time. How are you spending your time? How long is it taking you to do things that maybe it can take you less time, right? And what are you expecting to get done on any given day? I just talked about this yesterday where I did a speaking engagement for a bunch of lawyers, and we talked a lot about prioritizing our day and prioritizing our work. And there's three questions that I ask myself when it comes to prioritizing, that if you actually incorporate these questions in your life, they're a game changer. So every day, the first question I ask is, what must be done today? Now, I can look at my calendar right now and tell you that there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things today that must be done. And this is number 5. I have one more thing today that must be done. Other than that, nothing that needs to happen. Then after must be done, the next question is, what could be done? I had a break in between my 1:30 and my 3:00 when I met you today. So I had an hour and a half that I actually knocked out a couple of things that could be done. Nothing's going to happen if they don't get done today, but I was able to do that. And then the last question is, what will be done this week? Because the reality of it is, I have a whole week to get this week's work done. And if it doesn't get done tomorrow, I'm okay that I put it to tomorrow. Today, I'm okay to put it to tomorrow. But I always like to look at Friday as my end goal. I like to go into my weekend feeling like I earned it. And that means I got all of this week's work done. Now, it could be that Friday comes and I didn't get all this week's work done, and it's not the end of the world that I move it to next week. But my goal is to get this week's work done.
I love those 3 questions, Wendy. I was writing them down. What must be done today? What could be done today? And what will be done this week? I think that's a great way to kind of frame activities or projects that we're working on and just get clarity on those so that we can be productive and prioritize. That's a word I use a lot with our clients and just in my own life, running my business, all of that. What do you think about prioritization, Wendy?
That's what must be done today, and then what could be, and then what will be. I don't think prioritizing needs to be that difficult. Everybody wants to make it harder than it is, right? You have to look at, here are the things that are on my plate. Here are the things that have hard and fast deadlines. If something is due at 5:00 tomorrow, that's a must do by 5:00 tomorrow. So then you have to evaluate, how long is it going to take you to do that? And then you block time on your calendar for that particular project. That's being intentional. That's not waiting until an hour before it's due and realizing it's a 2-hour project. That's being intentional, not accidental.
Absolutely.
That's prioritizing. And you know what? You have to keep an open mind, because something could come into your life that takes precedence over everything else that you had on your plate today. And you make it work and you move things around.
I love it. I love it. So, Wendy, tell us more about your business, the 25th Hour.
So It is. It's the craziest business, actually. It really is. It's so much fun because I do so many different things. So I love working with several types of people. I love working with entrepreneurs who are just starting out or small business owners who now are starting to develop teams and want to have systems for how they all operate together. And I totally support women-owned businesses and women entrepreneurs because I am one. I've also created Wendy Ellin's 3P Academy, which is a toolbox that fuels productivity, performance, and peace of mind. And that's a product that I created that lives on a technology platform. So anybody in any organization can access it and learn my tools, which is great. So I'm selling that to corporations right now. Home Depot's legal department of 200 people are going through that. And I have another company and I'm talking to several corporations about offering this to their employees as a benefit to them. Here's my thinking. I believe that businesses and corporations have a right to ask their employees to give them their best work. But I also believe it is their responsibility to, number one, find out why they're not and give them the tools to do. If you give me a tool to be the best and most productive person I can, you have a right to ask me to do that. But here's the thing about this issue. It's not talked about in most businesses. People do not raise their hand and say, I'm a mess, I need help. Because there's a lot of shame around this and a lot of embarrassment around it. I have a client today that I just said, I want you to call me. We're going to get on the phone. I'm going to help you organize your home office on Zoom. And he said, I'm embarrassed for you to see it. I said, you got to let that go. There's no judgment here. If you need the help, I want to help you. So most people don't talk about this. So most corporations don't know what they don't know. They have no idea how many people are disorganized. They don't ask. I have a productivity assessment that allows you anonymously to find out who needs help. You don't have to put your name on it. Just rate yourself as to where you are in all these different areas. Do you procrastinate? Are you a perfectionist? Do you multitask? Do you have physical clutter? Do you have electronic clutter? Are you on time? And based on that, we can see where the help is needed.
Wow. It's great that you have so many different ways that you can help people with productivity, Wendy. And you're right. I think people moving through any embarrassment or shame that they might have around productivity and asking for help is so important.
No, it's like
Well,
anything else you ask for help about, right?
yes, absolutely. We will be providing a link to your website and other social channels in our show notes so that people can find you online. But what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
Easiest way is Wendy@wendyellen.com. And if somebody emails me because they heard me on the podcast and they want to have a chat, I'll send them their calendar link. Or you can literally go to wendyellen.com and you can fill out the contact information and I can find you that way.
Great. So now, Wendy, I want to ask you our final question that I like to ask all of our guests. How do you think executives or professionals can get a positive edge in their career?
This is the most obvious answer. Get organized. Seriously, you'll stand out amongst the crowd. Trust me when I tell you, when you look at the whole world, more people need this than not. Be the one that stands out and has basic systems for how you get work done. Honor your word. Do what you say you're going to do.
I agree, Wendy. I agree. And I think when you're organized and you're productive, you're going to get so much more done that your performance is going to improve. And like you mentioned, you're going to stand out. You're really going to be that kind of shining star, that top performer. So thank you. Wendy, you have shared a lot of tips with us today, and I'm sure that our listeners could use it to be more confident in their careers. We appreciate you being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
This episode was brought to you by the Bravebird Career Alliance, the go-to membership designed for seasoned executives and ambitious professionals with everything you need for career planning, strategy, training, and support. Thank you again for listening to the Career 101 podcast. I hope you have at least one key takeaway that you can use in your own career. If you enjoyed hanging out with us, please rate, subscribe, and share this podcast. Until next time, here's to your success.